Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you're catching this. This is the new Braves Country Today format that we're going to be doing. And the reason why these are not going to be live, they're going to be drops, but they will be premiering at a time so that you can all jump in and chat together, is because my schedule's about to get really, really hectic, both on the radio side and outside of it. And I don't know what time I'm going to be able to do these, and I want to be consistent when y'all see them. So it looks like most likely they're going to be dropping at noon, and we're going to be doing during the regular season. The idea would be that we would go into noon and start them like we've done in the past, where it's at the beginning of each series for the Atlanta Braves. Really just depends on how their schedule is and what day they have off, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the essential game plan, and I didn't want to give the show up. But I'm going to have so many irons in the fire, it's going to be really difficult to do these live. Maybe every great once in a while I'll do them live, but it's going to be rare. But the idea is to be consistent what time it comes on. And the reason why we pick noon is because in all likelihood that's not going to be interfering with the first pitch of the first game in a Braves series. Typically, if the Braves are playing at 12:15 like they've been doing at home on a getaway day, it's the third game of the series. So that's why we're going with noon. That way people out on the West Coast, people like One Iron, can see it at 9 a.m. It's a reasonable time for him to get up after he gets out of his drunken stupor. Just giving you all a hard time. And then noon, perfect time for people on the East Coast, right around lunchtime. And then, of course, people in Central Time, 11 a.m. I don't know about y'all, but when I did live in Central Time, that's usually when a lot of us cut out for lunch. So that's what the idea is, for everyone to still be able to join in, premiere at the same time. And like I said, every once in a while I'll do a live, but it's gonna be so rare. And I didn't want the times to be all over the damn place. We were like, why is it one time he's doing it at midnight and the other time he's doing it at 7 a.m.? So that's why we're doing it this way. And with that being said, the reason why this is going to become a thing, you're just going to know what it means when you see it in the posts, the chats. We're going to put them up primarily on the Facebook page and on the YouTube page, where the posts now appear for YouTube. And it's going to be put up after the last one goes out, and maybe y'all got questions that you want us to address on the next show. And if I have a chance, I may address them that night during the game, whatever. But the idea is for y'all to still have a voice, because we've ran into this in the past, because I've had people that inbox me on this kind of stuff. there is no such thing as a stupid question. And I know your teacher taught you that, and then your boss probably untaught you that. So, oh, yeah, there is this thing as a stupid question. It really isn't. Because if you have the question and you think it's silly or you think you probably shouldn't ask it, remember this. There's probably at least one other fan out there that's at least it's crossed their mind. And even if they've gotten to the bottom of it and gotten the answer, there's another person out there who has not gotten the answer. So we're going to try to answer these the best we can. And then we're also going to go over the actual stuff that we have planned. And we're going to try to keep this to a tight window so you can catch this on your lunch break somewhere around the we'll say 30 to 45 minute range, like we've always done with most of these. And you'll be able to catch the audio version a lot of the times leading into game one of the series. But once again, if you want to watch along with everybody, just catch it on the premiere. And like I said, they'll be going at noon. We picked this one for Saturday at noon, but that's really only because we didn't do a game this Saturday because we got some things going on, and we wanted to make sure that we started these shows back up. I don't know when we're doing the show next week because going into this coming week, it's going to be crazy. I don't know if we'll get to a show. I would think we would, but I don't know if we'll for sure get to a show because with the WBC coming in and taking over our broadcast time, along with trying to give you Braves games, it's going to get nuts. I mean, it is going to get nuts for me, and that's not even looking into the regular season. Once we hit the regular season, I'm doing a ton more games than I've ever done, trying to see if it can be done. And then I'm also doing some things that you won't see on Braves Country Radio. That I'm trying to do some stuff, some production for other channels and whatnot. Some other radio stations that they really like our production, the way our show sounds, all that kind of stuff. And they just are basically reaching out to me, going, "Man, can you help me put together these commercials? Can you do this? Can you do that?" And so that's what we're trying to do. So that's why, because there's going to be times where I'm recording this show, let's say the Braves end their ball game around 11 p.m., and I have to do certain things, and I finally get around to recording it. It might be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, and there's just not enough people who are going to be watching it at that time. So that's why we're doing it, because we want y'all, because the main thing with this show, even though we do want to try to inform and entertain, we also want y'all to get together and hang out, because I know that's a part of this whole Braves Country Radio experience. It's not just getting the game from us, and we try to do the best we can. And I know we don't always do to perfection, but we try like hell to get better each game, right? Get better each season. I think you're going to enjoy this coming season. But we also very much value just the family atmosphere that Braves Country Radio has become. And it's a shout out not just to all our admins, because they do a great job of coming in and trying to keep the potty mouth and the negativity out of there, and we really do like that. And I do want people to be able to voice their opinion. I want people to be able to be a fan of whoever they want to be a fan of. We just don't want them attacking each other. And then there's some people that come in that they're just so negative for such a long time. You're just like, what the hell is wrong with you? So anyways, shout out to the admins, but also shout out to everybody who continues to drive the conversation in Braves Country Radio, because the likes are no longer really our number one goal, though we do like to get likes. It's the subscriptions and the hypes, but also the engagement. The more y'all are chatting up and just having a good time. That's all we really want from y'all, because not only will it help grow the channel, I just want this to be enjoyable for all of y'all. Because at the end of the day, and I've said this for years, baseball's supposed to be fun. Sports is supposed to be fun. You got a lot enough negative bull crap that you do with in your daily life between bills and your job and you know, family and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This ought to be fun. This ought to be for you to be able to set aside 3 hours, 2.5 hours sometimes, as they've gotten quicker with these games, and just enjoy your summer, enjoy your spring, enjoy your fall. And we're going to try to bring more games to you than you've ever seen before. And I know some people are only going to tune in for the Braves. I get that. But the big baseball purists, the big-time baseball fans, and even some of the casual fans, I think you're going to enjoy engaging with other fan bases and bring us all together, because you don't have to hate each other just because you grew up in a different part of the country rooting for a different baseball team. So anyways, but then again, try to say that to a Philly fan, right? All right. Let's get into some of the stuff that I do want to hit on. So we're going to do some of these Q&As as we go along, but then I'm also going to sprinkle in my stuff. So this is the card once again. You'll see we put it up on YouTube, we put it up on Facebook, put it up on a couple of other, and we actually had it pasted on a couple of radio sites for them to relay us any questions. So shout outs will be given to people that you probably never heard of if you're primarily in the YouTube family. But the ones that you will hear, we're going to do them first, and then we'll go to the others, because I think it's only fair that the folks in the country club are the ones that we are going to hit up and then kind of go from there. All right, number one, we want to answer a question here from Uncle Charlie, and he's asking so far the take on Walt Weiss as a manager and the coaching staff. So Charlie, I think it's a pretty good question, because I think a lot of fans are optimistic but don't know what the hell to expect from the Atlanta Braves coaching staff, right? And rightfully so. I mean, we're talking about a team that has always kind of gone by what they call the Braves way. And the biggest thing I think that we are concerned about when we talk about the Braves way is the guys that we bring in, do they continue to hold to a certain standard? Let me take that off the screen real quick, as we somehow got changed in. I think I know what happened, but it doesn't really matter. All right, back to what it was supposed to be. Our app has issues from time to time doing what they're supposed to be doing. All right, there you go. So when you talk about the Braves coaching staff and what to expect from them, I think the number one thing that we want to see from Walt Weiss, kind of talked about this on Friday's broadcast, but to me, and this is just me being the fan, the type of fan that I am, everybody's got their own different style of being a fan. But to me, when you talk about Walt Weiss, and he definitely has the experience, we're not worried about that. Does he show the leadership is the number one thing, because when it comes to a manager in Major League Baseball, just like a head coach in a basketball team, much more in those two sports than in others, because I do believe there's a lot of X's and O's that goes into a great head football coach. Same thing with hockey as far as strategy and whatnot. But as far as baseball is concerned, Major League Baseball, I think the biggest thing you have to look at is, do you have someone who can lead a locker room, steady the ship, but also continue to light a fire under their ass? And that was my biggest issue with Bobby Cox. Brian Snitker. Sorry, I got a sign of Bobby Cox hanging in the back office. I was thinking of him in the glory days. My biggest issue with Brian Snitker was, and maybe it was because I grew up on Bobby Cox, you never saw him blow up. You never saw him get out there and get into an umpire's ass because he's missed several pitches. Now, look, a lot of this is going to be cleared up by the ABS system. The ABS system is going to eliminate a lot of these things, because you're not going to be able to argue balls and strikes as much, because it's going to be right there on the board for you. Now, you run out of your ABS challenges, right? And you end up realizing, okay, we're out of challenges, and that guy still blew the call. Will Walt Weiss be the type of guy who's still going to argue for his team, or is he going to be like we saw so many times with Brian Snitker? Well, it wouldn't have made any difference. And that was my biggest issue with Brian Snicker. All those years is that he constantly told the media when they actually had the cojones to ask him, why didn't you challenge that play? Meaning, why didn't you challenge the umpire's opinion? Not necessarily mean that you had a challenge. Why didn't you voice your opinion? And his constant argument was, well, it wouldn't have made a difference. He's not going to change his mind. That's not the point. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not trying to get the call overturned. You're trying to go to bat for your guys to A. They know that you've got their back, and they don't have to get thrown out. And B, it very much can influence the next call. Now, that's in any sport. You'll see coaches in the National Football League, in college football, baseball, basketball, and you'll see them lobbying and arguing with the referees, the umpires, etc. And it's got nothing to do with getting that call overturned. It has to do, as they call it, working the refs, working the room, working the umps. Because you're trying to establish the fact that if you don't get it right, you're going to hear it from me. That's what I want to know from Walt Weiss. Other than that, I don't have an opinion on him yet. Because I believe every manager, even though he got fired from the Colorado Rockies, he didn't have the greatest roster out there. So this is a clean slate to me. Even though Walt Weiss sat there with the Atlanta Braves for the last several years as the bench coach, we don't know what his actual personality is, because a good company man is not going to show up his boss. So if Snicker's sitting there on his hands and not complaining and doesn't believe you should complain, it's not good for Walt Weiss to go, what are you, nuts? And start screaming from the dugout and showing up his umpire. Showing up his manager via the umpire. Now, the other guys. Now, Tim Hires, I still say we got to give him a full season of some healthy guys. We saw some improvements, but I think some of them were overblown, and I think some of the early part of the year knee-jerk reaction, a lot of folks probably jumped early and complained when they probably shouldn't have. And then when you saw some success, you probably gave him too much credit. Let's just see what Tim Hires does in year 2 with hopefully a healthy, talented core of batters. If these guys top to 9 do not produce offensively, we are going to be pointing at Tim Hires. And he knows that. That's part of the game. Assistant hitting coach Darnell Coles, I don't think you can take a lot from him, because he's going to be literally just assisting Tim Hires. And unless you start hearing some things from behind the scene, positive or negative, the assistant position coaches I never pay attention to. Not wholeheartedly. Like, I know who they are, but I'm not worried about their performance per se, because you have to lay it on Tim Hires, the guy at the top, or whatever position coach we're talking about. Heavy is who weighs the crown, right? So you got Tim Hires, then you got Tony Masolino. And Masolino's coming over from the Baltimore Orioles. He was an interim manager, but he was the bench coach. And I saw I've seen 2 interviews on Masolino, and they're pretty darn good. And the next Braves Country today that we are going to do, I'm going to try to get some of these audio interviews and go a little more in depth on some of the stuff that's been talked over the spring. Today, I just wanted to kind of hit the questions and kind of lay the groundwork of what we're going to be doing. But when I figure out when the next one is, I'll put a post up. It'll be some time next week, I would think. And it may well be on one of the off days, because I'm telling you, once we hit that WBC, it is a whirlwind. I've looked at my schedule, and I'm just going to be like, but I love every minute of it. I personally, by the way, if you've never paid attention to the WBC, and this might be your first year, it kind of getting on your radar, I love the hell out of it. It is fun. It is like a mini October, but on a worldwide stage. and everybody's got a lot of pride for their country. And I've got no issue with guys like, well, he was actually asked about this, Ron Acuna Jr. playing for Venezuela, even though he lives in the United States, and he basically said, I love both countries, but this is my, these are my countrymen, and I want to try to do great for my home. And I have no problem with that. I don't have a problem with Freddie Freeman, who played for Team Canada. When guys are like born in the United States, and just because their grandfather was half Irish and they play for Ireland, usually that's because they're not good enough to be on Team USA. So I don't even have a problem with that. Same thing with Team Italy. You'll have all these guys that don't know a lick of Italian, but their grandmother is a quarter Italian. That's really all you got to be able to qualify to play for said country. I don't have a problem with that, because if they're playing for that team, it's because they weren't good enough to play for the United States, but they want to play and they want to have fun. That's what sports is about. But anyways, I'm looking forward to the World Baseball Classic. Back to the pitching, back to the coaches. We'll go to the pitching coach, Jeremy Hefner. I'm very intrigued by Hefner. He has gotten a lot of praise coming over from the Mets. And the only question you have is, why did it not work out in New York? And so we'll see if his approach is different than Kranitz. But the way I look at it is, maybe Kranitz is getting stale. And when they shuffled out Snicker, maybe it was time to just get new blood in the clubhouse. And they're not all going to be home runs. We're going to have some coaches that we get that we're going to be like, what the hell is this? And they're going to have to adjust. But I think all in all, they did a pretty good job of bringing the guys in just for what we know of them. Jeremy Hefner, people are big time optimistic about what he can do with the pitching staff. And the only thing that I have a concern with the Mets and the pitching staff for the last several years is they had a ton of injuries. I'm not putting that all on the pitching coach, but they had a ton of injuries. And here we start off, and by no means am I blaming Hefner. I'm just saying this has happened. Hefner gets in here, and immediately we lose 40% of our pitching rotation for at least 2 to 3 months. So can he try to change whatever is going wrong in Braves country? But then again, he's got to work hand in hand with the trainers and the training staff to make sure these guys are staying healthy. Because the most important ability in Major League Baseball, especially in pitching, is availability. And you can be as talented as you want. But that's not doing us a lot of good right now, is it, Schwellenbach? Waldrop. A.J. Smith-Shawver. In theory, 60% of our starting rotation is missing. Because right now, if everybody were healthy, all three of those guys I just mentioned would be in the starting rotation with Chris Sale and Spencer Strider headlining it. And I don't know what we'd do with Raylo at that point, but you could go to a 6-man rotation. But instead, we've got those three guys at the top, and we're scrambling to figure out who 4 and 5 are going to be. Antoine Richardson, the first base coach. I am very high on him because of his track record of teaching guys how to run bases. And it's not just the stolen base, but look, the proof's in the pudding. He is taking guys like Juan Soto and giving them an outstanding all-time season just because they partnered with him as the first base coach. And he's also the base running coach, right? He's teaching the guys what to look for to steal, but he's also helps him out when the guys come to first base and essentially telling him what to look for this particular pitcher, his movements, et cetera, et cetera. And he might be over there giving them, a lot of these guys come up with their own individual signs when a guy's standing at first. And whether it's a simple go, but that's usually something different. but letting them know, I see what we were looking for, take off. And if the guy didn't take off and he, in between pitches, he comes back to first, supposedly Richardson's constantly coaching him, and he's saying, look, this is why you should have went on that. That guy did that we talked about pregame in the film room. Did you not see it? Because if you see it again, you need to leave. You need to take off. And that's what I'm most in. I am so excited to see not just what he can do with Ron Acuna Jr., who's already a pretty darn good base stealer. I still think Acuna has never tapped his absolute maximum of what he can do on the base pass. Number one, because of the two injuries, the massive knee injuries, but also I don't think he's ever been refined by anybody, and maybe Richardson can get him to 85 plus steals. We saw the 73 on the 40-70 year, but maybe there's something in there that can have Acuna well north of 73. Maybe he could get 100. Wouldn't that be something if he becomes the first 50-100? I know I'm just looking pie in the sky type things, but I think the ability there for Acuna is there. It's whether or not it can be squeezed out of him. And so I'm not just excited about what he can do with Acuna, but think about the athletic guys that we have on this team that are not really known for base stealing, but they've got speed. Ozzie Albies, Jerickson Profar. Hell, Mike Yastrzemski's not really a snail. Michael Harris II. All these guys are athletic. What can he get out of Dubon? Can he get a stolen base for Olsen? Can Riley, who over his career, I always looked upon as Riley almost like a Freddie Freeman type of base runner, where he's not known for his base running, but don't fall asleep because he will take off. Can he get 10 to 15 steals out of Riley? But I'm excited. The most excited acquisition in the coaching staff that I have this season, this offseason, is with Antoine Richardson. I was very aware of who he was. I don't know how we talked him into coming down to Atlanta, but we got him. Now let's roll. I saw an interview, and we'll try to get that clipped up for you, from Tommy Watkins, the new third base coach. I don't know really what to expect from him, but I do like the fact that he seemed like he's excited to be a third base coach, to be our third base coach. And it seems like he loves the game. He was talking about having the adrenaline when he's over there on the third base, when he's either sending a guy or he's holding a guy. And you like to hear that. I think that's pretty common for all guys standing at third base. I mean, you really are the star of the show, and you know that come hell or high water, people are either going to praise you or they are going to try and drag you. So we'll see what Tommy Watkins has. I don't really know a lot about him. I've never heard anything bad about him, but we'll see what he's got. I hate to say it, but he can't be worse than what we've had the last couple of years. I mean, Freddie Gonzalez and Tui were disasters over there. It's been a disaster ever since Washington left. And look, I think we always remember Ron Washington for all the good. He did some boneheaded things over there at third. But his good outweighed the bad, so we always, and plus he was a likable character, so we always, never really going to have any bad to say about Ron Washington. But he wasn't perfect. I'm just pointing out the fact that as bad as those guys were the last couple of seasons, it's not like Ron Washington never made a mistake. So when Tommy Watkins gets over there, if he makes mistakes, you're good. As long as his good outweighs the bad, I'll be fine with it. If he's a guy that's always sending someone when he shouldn't, or always holding him when you know damn good well that guy could have scored, then I'm going to have a problem. But I will always side with the guy if he's more aggressive than passive when it comes to my third base coach. That's the one part of the coaching staff that I'll always want a more aggressive as opposed to a less aggressive third base coach. but I wanted to be smart. You know, I remember, God, when Max Fried was a baby. I mean, he might have been a rookie. I'll never forget. We were, this is back when we were doing the radio show on CBS, and they sent Max Fried around to score. I'm trying to remember who that third base coach was, but it's not important right now. But they sent him around to score, head first slide, and he was safe. But it was your new young star pitcher doing a head first slide at home plate. This is before they had outlawed all the things that they've done now. And he extended his pitching hand out on a head first slide to tap home plate in the back of the plate. I want to say it was against the Marlins. It was before we were doing the BCR. And I remember that either the next morning or the next show we did, because I can't remember if it happened on the weekend or not. My co-host and I were just livid about the fact that at that point in that game, that run did not mean as much as it did to keep Max Fried healthy. And I'm pretty sure that was I feel like it was 2019, but I might be off by a year. But anyways, that's the kind of stuff that I worry about. Now, you don't have that issue anymore because pitchers don't typically base run, but that was the kind of stuff that would get me just all up in arms about who was at third base. But Tommy Watkins, I'm going to give him a clean slate and hopefully hope for the best. Other than that, you've got Eddie Perez once again is back as an assistant coach. Tony Diaz, Jose Yepes is a bullpen catcher. Navarez is a bullpen catcher. Who have I missed? Dustin Garneau is the catching coach. JP Martinez is the bullpen coach. Most of these guys, though they are somewhat important roles, they're limited as far as having big time impact on the team. You do want to keep an eye on your bullpen coach, JP Martinez, because you just want to make sure that he's getting them ready. But it's pretty simple nowadays. Typically going into a game, so we'll say we played on a Monday night, we're going to go play Tuesday, and going into Tuesday, you're going to have a list of guys who are available, and that Wednesday wraparound morning game, you're already getting guys ready who are saying, hey, you're not pitching today. Take it easy, but we're probably going to need you, if possible, Wednesday morning. That's the kind of stuff that they're doing and making sure that they're staying on track. And they are taking little things, they're paying attention to little things like the delivery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that really gets encompasses by Jeremy Hefner's overall managing. But remember, the bullpen coach is down in the bullpen during the game 9 times out of 10. So he is seeing things that your pitching coach, who is sitting in the dugout going over things with the manager, et cetera, that he is not privy to. So he's kind of his right-hand man. He's kind of his eyes and ears while the game is going on. So it's good that Hefner and Martinez have a good relationship so that they can bounce back and forth and go, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. Let's say you told him to get so-and-so up in the 6th inning, and they say, hey, is he ready? And you go, he's ready, but he doesn't look great today. And let's say it's a big part in the game. That kind of relays it to Hefner. Hey, maybe we need to really see how he goes the first few pitches, and if it doesn't look great, let's start getting player Y and Z ready because player X is struggling today. It's that kind of stuff. But anyways, hope that answered some things for you, Charlie. Next one up on the docket here, we've got, let's see, here we go. JJ wanted to know thoughts on the tweet / Substack about the 2025 revenues that he thinks the team is gearing up for a sale. So this isn't really anything new. This has been offered as rumor for as far as I can think back to about 3 years ago. But when you start talking about the team gearing up for the sale, I don't know if it matters a whole lot. The biggest thing that jumped out to me was when we signed or took over the new deal of what they're calling Braves Vision. I don't think I finished this thought the other day. Someone came up with a much better name for it, by the way. Braves Entertain Sports. I don't remember what the T stood for, but I guess it was television. Braves Entertainment and Sports Television is what they were coming up with the name, and they could have called it Best. I like that, but they didn't. They called it Braves Vision. The reason why is they're playing it off of the name of the Diamond Vision that's in the ballpark. The biggest thing that comes from this signing, and I was telling my wife the other day, I said, hell, I've only been talking about this since I think I first started banging the drum about this way back in 2011, but we weren't on the air at that point. I'd taken a hiatus from radio, and we came on in 2014. This is one of the first things that we talked about. And we used to be a primarily Atlanta Braves baseball, some other baseball, and then we did Southern football, college and NFL talk show that came on daily down in St. Augustine, Florida, and then eventually got picked up by a couple other stations around the country. But this was way back in 2014, 2015. I know by 2015. And if you remember the offseason going into opening day, was that 15 or 16, when the Braves traded away Craig Kimbrell and they started trading away all their pieces, and it became very evident that the Braves were doing a full rebuild, and Braves fans were pissed, and they were like, this sucks, and you're going to waste 2-3 years of my life. I swear that felt like a decade. But I was banging the table then. I said the reason why they're having to do this is because they can't afford to reload like the LA Dodgers because of their absolutely horrific television deal that we finally got out of. That's the biggest thing that I'd say take away. If you're looking as a fan, what to get excited about, what are the Braves going to do? It's the fact that going forward, they are going to be able to compete. There's going to be no real reason. Now, this year's going to be a little wonky, and who knows about 2027 because of the CBA and the strike and the lockout and all that nonsense. But typically, year in and year out going forward, the Atlanta Braves monetarily should be able to go toe-to-toe with almost anyone. The LA Dodgers have an extremely unfair revenue lack of share that they signed a few years back, and that's why they are spending gobs and tons of money that nobody else has. And then when you also get on top of the fact that they're talking these guys into deferring so much of their payments, it's an uneven playing field. But it is what it is right now. The point is, we're no longer sitting there going, man, this is going to be rough. I don't know where we're going to come up with the money. This season's going to be a little shaky, but they've already kind of made that decision that they weren't going to let it hold them back when they went out and got guys like Suarez and Yastrzemski and whatnot. And they really kicked the foot through the door when they extended sale. And I do think we're going to get extensions from other guys that are going to make you excited. And I do believe they now have, and they talked about this, I just hope for once they become men of their words. They did not go out and get, and this goes to Robert's question because he was asking about will the Braves sign some pitchers before opening day. Robert, your question, and I think John's question, John, Chop Shop, whatever you want to go by. I think it all kind of intertwines, because what you're really wanting to know is this going to help us compete. Now that there is going to be a streaming platform where the Braves are going to be available to people, and it's mainly the people that are in the Georgia, the Atlanta, Georgia market, the Braves market. Before, so many were being blacked out, and a lot of them didn't want to buy FanDuel. And I don't know what the percentage will be, but I think more will be willing to buy Braves Vision. I think it's going to be about the same price. But maybe they just feel like that the one thing about it is they'll no longer get blocked out by a game. And the one thing I do know that was going on is you go out and you get FanDuel, or back when it was Bally's, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter what stamp you put across the screen. It's still the same thing. Same thing with Braves. Nothing's changing. But the difference being is that they're lifting the blackouts, which means if you get it, you're going to be able to see it every game. That what was going on before, you're sitting in the Braves market, and they're telling you that you have to buy, FanDuel Southeast or whatever the hell, and it's going to give you the Braves. It's going to give you the Hawks. Maybe your hockey team's the Nashville Predators. Whatever. Doesn't matter. And you come home one night, and the Braves game has already started, and the Predators and the Hawks are playing at the same time, and so they have two outlets, and they've decided to put the Predators on one and the Hawks on the other, and you have no way of seeing the game because you can't go to MLB TV, because that's what it's going to change. And it's also going to change for the fact that now, as opposed to a small portion of what's probably going to be around what they've said is $20 a month or $100. But realize if you say you're going to buy $100, you're talking about $100 up front. So think about that as a fan. Just get prepared for that. And we're all guessing the numbers. We don't really know, but we're going off of what they are in other markets. You either give them the $100 up front or whatever it's going to be, 100, who knows? After taxes, who knows? Or you pay $20 a month for 6 months, which saves you $20. Are you going to give them your whole $100, or are you going to go, screw it, I'll just pay $20 a month? Now, granted, that being said, that's only going to get you April, May, June, July, August, September. You're not going to get the month of March, which it's supposed to begin in March. And going into next year, you won't get the spring training games in February. But it really comes down to what your interests are, what your priorities are. It's not likely to be carried on many of your cable subscriptions, and I doubt it will be on any that isn't a part of a package, meaning like a sports package you have to add $10 a month to when you're already paying $100 a month for everything else. So just think about that. We're still going to be here come hell or high water, and y'all, however you want to consume the game outside of us doesn't really affect us, but we do want you to have the most information possible. We know most people come in here to chat and then also to get a different view of the game and a different feel of the game, because we do try all the stuff that we put together, and I work around the clock sometimes with this. My constant thing is, how can I make this damn thing better? Not just by my call, but how can I make it feel like you're a part of something that nobody else is, and you've got, you're kind of, you're kind of in on a secret, so to speak. And we want to feel that you're at the ballpark. It's why we added the background noise. And every once in a while someone complains about the crowd noise. Whatever. I got tired of re-listening, and it sounded like a church, and it was quiet. I know some people like that. I don't, because it's not realistic. That's not what you get from a ball game. I'm open to some suggestions, but we're not just going to turn it into a church. And I'm also not, people will complain about, why are you playing the tomahawk chop? Because it's a part of the damn damn game. And we're not, and then the people that come in that are just sour pusses all the time, we ignore them. We'll let you know this coming this season. We're going to have it set up where I'm not going to see a lot of comments if you're not a country club member. The only ones that have really come in are those trash spam ones where there's like 30, hey, coming over here and click on this so we can get all your information. I'll be able to see those to block those, but everything else, it's going to be lazy. It's hard to explain what we're going to do, but the comments will be there, and they'll still be able to comment to y'all. Don't get me wrong. YouTube will look nothing different, but my look on the back end, I'll be able to focus more. So if I don't see a country clubber commenting, I'm probably not seeing them. I might go pregame to look at it to see if we can get names for like a roll call. But other than that, if you're not a club member, it's the only way to get rid of some of this nonsense because it gets distracting as hell, and I'm worried about bringing y'all the game. I think that's about it. We didn't get a ton of questions this week, and a couple of the ones that we got from the radio folks, I want to let y'all know, those who are listening, we're going to get to them next time because some of the ones you're asking about lay into what we're going to do next time. Braves Country, this is a little longer we typically were going to go. We're just kind of laying the groundwork for Braves Country today. Like I said, we're going to be dropping them at noon Eastern, and the goal is the first day of every series that the Braves play. And we're going to drop them at noon so that way people can all join in on the premiere. We're going to set them up for premieres and not just drop them. So that way you all know that it's coming in and you all chat along. And I'm going to try to chat along on a lot of them. There's just going to be times where I'm physically unable. I'm going to watch all of them, but because I'll have my phone on me. But if I'm doing something else with one of the other stations, I'm literally not being able to type away. But I can see what y'all are talking about, so that maybe I get an idea what to talk about next time. And I hope y'all enjoy it. We're gonna say this a little more often because I think it's one of the best lines anyone's ever done in broadcasting. We'll see you again next time. We'll try to do better. So shout out to Tony K. We'll see you. Braves, Tigers on Monday. So we got Monday, Wednesday. We're playing the national team of the Columbia. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then pretty sure those are all Braves games. And then Friday starts the WBC with the USA. We're going to have every USA game, and we're going to try to give you others. I so wanted to do Japan versus Korea. It would have been fun, but you know what those dirty bums did? USA is playing Friday night at 8 o'clock. That game is not likely to get over with until somewhere between 11 and midnight Eastern, which means I might get to sleep at 1, and that's a big if, because usually adrenaline's pumping. Then I would have to turn around and wake up at 4 a.m. because they're playing the damn game at 5 a.m. the very next day. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the very first game of the WBC at 5 a.m. has nothing to do with either one of those two. I mean, this is ridiculous. So anyways, only way we're going to be able to bring you Japan, because I do want to see them play, but the only way we're going to be able to bring it to you is in the next round, because we looked at it, and our number one goal is to bring you the USA and then build around that. USA number 1, Braves spring training number 2, and then build everything else around that. And it's going to make it impossible until we get to the second round. But we are going to bring in the Dominican Republic versus Venezuela. That should be a lot of fun. And Canada versus Cuba. And that should be pretty cool too. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping in, and thanks for listening to me yap along. See you Monday, girls and boys.